moment where we kind of started to like feel like it was working was we got people coming in and they were like, "Hey, I saw this video that you did with your founder. That was awesome. Like that was so funny, so relatable, stuff like that, right?" And that's for me, that's like one of the best feelings in the world is like, okay, what we're doing is paying off. It's working. And it got to a point where our main channel just became, organic content on LinkedIn because like we were getting the most leads from there and people were enjoying our content.
So every founder and marketing leader I talk to, we all know employee content is the best. We know that company pages suck on LinkedIn, but I'm speaking from my firsthand experience. It is hard to get this to work. It's hard to get
Super
employee
hard.
content to really work. So that's why I'm really excited to talk to you because you have I believe you just launched doContent last month. Is that
Yes,
correct?
literally. Yeah. It's been probably a whole 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
right at the beginning of this, but you have experience from a YC
Yeah.
company called Trellis. You were
Yes.
head of go-to-market there. So you had
Yes.
some good successes, but you also have a background in sales. So I'm really
Yeah.
interested to see from your experiences, like how you can help us do employee-generated content better. Because
Sure.
especially when you're having engineers or PMs or non-marketers try to do this, it gets really
Yeah.
complicated. So people want to know, how do you do it well? How do you do it at scale? And how do you make it work? So let's see, where should we get in? I think we should start on the story side because I want
Sure.
to just I'll get into the tactics a little bit later, but tell me one of your favorite stories from like either your experience or I guess most recently you probably worked with some clients where an
Yes.
employee generated piece of content like really performed beyond expectations and really did a great job.
Yeah. I think maybe the best story would be honestly where it all started when I was working at Trellis. And this was probably now about 2 years ago. Yeah, we made the decision to start building out our inbound funnel, and a big piece of that was a big piece of it was Dom figure out how to build our inbound funnel, right? And a piece that I really wanted to dive into more was organic content, especially organic content with us as the people in it. I didn't want to pay influencers. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. We barely had funding. And so I was like, okay, I got to make content with myself, with my founders. What can I do? So we started making like these videos, some of them were fun, some of them were educational, some of them we were together in New York in the office, some of them we were separate. It took about 4 months to get off the ground, and like we tried a bunch of different formats. We found that like funny humor, and like anywhere between funny and education, some people call it edutainment, right? Was like the sweet spot for us. And we just like started pumping it out with a bunch of random ideas. And the moment where we kind of started to like feel like it was working was people were coming in from like our people were coming in from our website, and they were saying, "Oh, I saw that post you made about XYZ. I loved it." Right? We didn't have any attribution at that time. We didn't have like our whole tech stack set up, so we couldn't really follow along the journey and see like who saw what video. And to be honest, that stuff's pretty broken anyways. Like it's not
Yeah.
going to ever be as specific as you want it to be. I learned that the hard way. It's investing a lot of time into it. But we got people coming in and they were like, "Hey, I saw this video you did with your founder. That was awesome. Like that was so funny, so relatable, stuff like that." Right? And that's for me, that's like one of the best feelings in the world is like, okay, what we're doing is paying off. It's working. And it got to a point where our main channel just became, organic content on LinkedIn because like we were getting the most leads from there and people were enjoying our content. So that was a very like feel good moment. That was like the first success story I ever had building out EGC. And it
And
ended up working out pretty well.
were you focused on LinkedIn at the time or were you also testing other channels for what you guys were doing with the funny edutainment?
Yeah, we were definitely testing other channels at first. The issue was that at the time, I was the only sales and marketer. And so I was doing everything. I was making the content and I was also closing the deals. And so I didn't have all the time in the world to explore every single possible channel. So we started with LinkedIn, we started with Reddit, and then we started with TikTok because that's where the majority of our sales audiences were living at the time from our research. Reddit went fairly well. TikTok kind of just didn't. I fell flat. And then LinkedIn was obviously the one that was just great. And so we were like, okay, let's just pull away from everything else and just focus everything on LinkedIn.
And was it video specifically? Because you're the first person I've talked to that I think there's a few folks out there who are doing LinkedIn video, but like a lot of people still
Yeah.
get a lot of success with text only, with memes.
Yeah.
But like video, did you do other things and you just found video was working the best?
So we did a combination of video, text posts, and image like carousel posts. And to be honest with you, the combination of all three, I think, is what really helps in terms of getting you out there. Certain formats are built to receive information certain different ways. Video is newer to the space, I would say, like newer to LinkedIn, especially
Newer
now
to
with the
LinkedIn
video
because
feed.
LinkedIn is like so old.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah, exactly.
oldest. I thought the word it's most old fashioned of all the networks.
It is. It is. Yeah. And people are actually like now picking up on making video content and
Yeah.
consuming video content. Right. And I've always been in the camp that video content is kind of like, it sounds super cringy, but like the key to the soul. Like if you see somebody's
Mm,
face, you see how they speak, you see their mannerisms, right? That resonates with you on a different level than reading their text or seeing a picture of them. And of course, like
yeah.
text posts and image posts, like they're built to do different things. And it helps to have this culmination of all these different types of formats that your audience can, enjoy and consume. But for me, video is striking. It's like if I see a video of you, I start to see you for who you really are. And if that's somebody in the business world, then I start to really understand who you are as a person. And if I vibe with you, right? If I want to do
Yeah.
business with you, and you stand out amongst everybody else who's just relying on, text posts or like these infographics that nobody reads. So
Yeah.
that's why video to me was like the most fun to make and the most easy one to say, okay, there's some ROI coming from this format.
Yeah. So I think that's true, especially now, like with I mean, there's AI is making it easier to do all forms of content. I mean, even video, but still video is the hardest to fake, I guess. The hardest to
Yeah.
fake that it's you and it's authentically you. When you were
Yeah.
doing this, you said you were the only one kind of doing marketing. Did you get your founder to also do the content? I'm curious about that because a lot of folks who do founder-led content, I feel like it's too much of a time suck to be able to get the founder, but that would be the goal
Yeah.
if you could. So like, how did you work with the founder if you did at all?
Yeah, honestly, it was a bit of a struggle at first, right? To get them on the camera to do stuff. They were kind of dipping their toes into it. They were kind of dipping their toes into content and into sales, but like not fully going into it because my founders at the time were like very engineering technical backed, and so
Yeah.
they were spending all day building the product. And so I had to be the guinea pig. I had to kind of like make the content, put it out there, show them that it's working, show them that there's, people are watching this stuff, they're enjoying it, we're getting some sort of traction from it. And that was kind of an easier buy-in for my founders to be like, okay, like let's explore what it looks like to make content ourselves as well. And I would just like I would I would always try to make it so like dumb easy for the content to be produced. Like I would go out to New York. I used to go to New York. I still go to New York like once a month. It's insane. I live in Boston. I don't know why I do this to myself, but like I used to go to New York once a month, meet up with the founders in the office, just shoot a bunch of random videos, post them on TikTok, post them on LinkedIn. And I would just make it so simple for them to just like sit down, like you're working. Okay, give me 2 seconds of your time. Read this script right now. Okay, like do this thing, answer this question. And then I would just clip it up for them. And it was just like super dumb, low barrier to entry, just like simple for them to create. And once they started seeing some traction, they were like, okay, like this is really fun. Like, let's
Yeah.
do this next, right? Like they started getting more involved in it. And so that's kind of how I would have to position it. If I were to give advice to anybody positioning it for leadership to be, interested in doing it, they have to see some success. And then you just got to make it super easy for them to do.
I think that makes a lot of sense because I mean, we're marketers talking to other marketers, and like it's okay for us to do videos, but then when you're
Yeah.
trying to get someone, well, like maybe they're not comfortable on camera, number one, or
Yeah.
they didn't buy into it. There's many barriers
Yeah.
that could be there. So talk to me more about how do you make it simple? Like you said, like
Yeah.
you probably it's part of your process probably. Like you probably have some ideas that you think will be most successful, and then you work on the idea or the storyboard. Give me an idea of how that process would look like when
Yeah.
you have an idea that you want the leadership to film. Or say anyone else on the team who's not a marketer.
Yeah. I think simple is a very broad term, right? Everyone's going to think, okay, make it simple. Let's just write everything for them so they can just like read off this piece of paper, right? Sure, that's
No,
kind of
don't do
part of it, but like
don't do
it's not going to work out. Yeah. It won't
Yeah,
work out the way you want it to work out. Simple means lowering expectations and making it as super easy as possible to not create a piece of content, but to try a piece of content. And so a big part of what I had to go through making videos for the first time, we're going like 5 years ago now. And what my founders had to do doing video for the first time is get the at bats in, right? Get some reps in to build their confidence level. And you kind of need a little bit of like blind faith at that point. And so the expectation isn't, I'm going to show up to the office, we're going to like pump out, a 3 hours of content. We're going to make so many great clips, right? No, I'm going to come to the office. We're going to have some fun, like during our lunch break. Let's just like create a couple videos, see what they look like. Some of them may be bad, some of them may be good, but don't worry. I'll take care of the ideas. All you guys got to do is kind of like go with it with me, have some fun with it, kind of just make it more of an experience, not so strict of a process, right? And then we just make it together, because making it together is always going to be easier than making it alone. Like I could never have been like, hey, I had this idea for you. I'm not going to be in the office, right? But like, can you just like create, take a video of yourself doing this thing? Like it's not the same atmosphere. It's not
Yeah.
the same type of like fun environment if you're with your team or if you're with another person. You guys are kind of like feeding off each other's energies. And the other way to make it easy, and we didn't necessarily need to do too much of this at Trellis because like we were a small team, and I was helping the founders create content, is to like run spiffs basically. This is something that like a lot of my marketing friends have done internally in their organizations, and it's like reward system, right? It's an incentivization system for any team members who want to create content, right? Let's give them some money, or let's like, pay for their gym membership, or bring them out to like a nice fancy dinner once a month to kind of reward them for taking a leap of faith and building some content for themselves, EGC.
Yeah.
So I think combining all those together is just like the easiest way that you could lower that barrier for people to create content.
You talked about at-bats and sort of experimenting, two of those things being important.
Yeah.
I have heard that it takes like 100 pieces of content to finally like get good. Do you believe that that's true? Like, you just need to get those out of the way to kind of.
I mean, I guess it depends like what kind of content you're making. I think if you're going to be making very like TikTok-esque, maybe talking head, quick cuts, it won't take you 100, maybe after, 30 or 40, you'll start to get the hang of it. You won't be perfect at it, but like you'll start to see what it's like. If you're going to be going for kind of a bit more of a complex idea, right? Like if you're an introvert and somebody wants you to do like, man on the street content and like go do interviews, first off, you shouldn't be doing that if you're an introvert, can match the employees to their skill set and their strengths.
Right.
But also if you are doing that, it may take you a bit longer because you're going to now have to be talking to people, have to understand the whole concept of like, I'm outside. Who am I going to target? Who am I going to talk to? Right? What questions am I going to bring up? I can't be looking at my phone all the time. So like the more creative and like out there the concept is and the format is, probably the more at-bats you'll need to actually feel good and then perfect it eventually.
So tell me about how you come up with ideas, because at least with video, I imagine that it's more involved than if, let's say, 10 text posts, you could just kind of put out there over 2 weeks and low risk, right? But like if you're investing time into a video, you want to make sure your idea is good enough that it's worth recording and worth, involving teammates. So how do you figure out what the best ideas are? Let's say just over the years, like have you refined a process that helps you to do that?
Yeah, actually, I was like tinkering with my process like over the weekend. Like I have it written down in a document to make it easier, like step by step for like, I like send this to clients as well. If they need help with like an ideation process, like this is the one that I use, right? But for the most part, I just do it for them. But yeah, so everything kind of starts with a lot of caffeine and lack of sleep. And that kind of really gets the gears turning, like it's really healthy for your mind, for your gut, for everything. Once I I just have like an idea, like something either sparks. I'm taking a walk, or maybe I'm in the shower, or maybe I'm doing something else, an idea just comes to mind. I'll write it down. I won't do anything with that idea right then and there, but I'll like put it on a whiteboard and I'll kind of like leave it there for a little bit and kind of like, I like to call it fermenting, right? Kind of like a gross
Makes
way
sense.
to say it, but like it's there, right? Every time I walk past it, I see it, the gears turn, but I don't put any action to it. And then I have like these brainstorming blocks where it's hard to brainstorm on cue. Like you can't just be like, okay, now it's time to come up with ideas, right? Like your mind kind of has to be there already, but it's easier when you have an entire list of topics that you can go back to and be like, okay, I can make like a full concept idea based off this one topic that I wrote down when I was like just getting out of the shower, right? And so I'll take that one topic and I'll start putting it together and I'll start kind of like acting it out or saying it or to myself in my office, right? Or in my bed or in the kitchen. I kind of sound like a madman. Like I'll just be talking to myself the whole time. And so I just talk to myself a bunch and like kind of get a feel for like what Then I'll write out the whole idea. Once I have the whole idea, I make a draft script. The script typically is really bad the first time I make it. And so I'll go at it like a couple more times. This is where I like to use AI to kind of help with the ideation process. So like I've built out a couple of GPTs that are meant to help me with like either funny content or educational content. And so I'll feed it my script and I'll be like, I can't get this one line to like stick out. Like, what can I do here? Give me some suggestions. They'll give me a bunch of suggestions. Most of them are probably going to be pretty bad, but it gives me like an idea for like what else to do, like a jumping off point. And so that's kind of how my process is and how it kind of it's evolved over the years, but that's kind of how I do it now.
So I'm curious because like the ideation is definitely more of an art than a science, but like,
Yeah.
do you have input sources like media that you look to as like great examples or even just other creators? Like, what are you consuming that's sort of feeding
Yeah.
the background of what your process it looks like?
I like to consume like all different types of content, short form content that is. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like I'll probably be like just doom scrolling for probably an hour a day at least, maybe 2
Yeah.
hours a day. And yeah, I just basically consume all these different types of formats and different styles of content that are interesting and like, I opening to me and like appealing. And I will write them down. Like I have a whole document of just like inspiration and it's just links to
Yeah.
different like TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, anything I see on LinkedIn that I really like. And then I always, whenever I have like that idea and I'm starting that brainstorming session, I'll go through that inspiration list again. And I'll just be like, maybe I can fit this idea within this type of style or this format. And then I just kind of run with it.
Love that. I needed to be more consistent about that because like I have different places, but I need like a one, what do they call that? Swipe file or something where you just, because it's all
Yeah,
different formats. So it's hard. I got
exactly.
screenshots here. I got links
Yeah.
there.
I think it's really hard too because like you can't I find it hard to just rely on one source for all the content.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I
I
mean.
like to mix and match.
It is creative. So, okay, I think we're preaching to the choir. We believe in this stuff,
Yeah,
but like I would say probably 99% of companies
yeah,
are either against employee generated content or maybe they don't even know they are, but there's so many like brand guidelines and you should do this, you
yeah,
shouldn't do that. Um Obviously don't those aren't the people you work with because they've already bought into it. But I guess do you have
yeah.
any thoughts about like do you think that's going to change? Are companies going to become less like if they see the benefits, they might become less strict about what employees can post? Like what are your thoughts just on like where it's going in the next like 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I believe in it and I'm banking on it that more B2B companies are going to want to explore some sort of type of employee generated content, whether it's the employees, whether it's founder led, anything that is a bit more authentic than what they are currently doing today. We are now moving into a very interesting era, especially on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and B2B marketing, where the success has been seen, right? Like there's companies like ClickUp, Wistia, Morning Brew, who have all
Mhm.
explored employee generated content. It's worked really well for them, and they have built a following, they have built a brand, not just a company, but like a brand that people see and they feel something, right? And they remember a piece of content that they shared when they see their faces or when they see their logo. And they've built inbound pipeline. And so I think companies are now finally understanding that this is possible. The question for them is, how do we do it? And that's like selfishly the reason why I wanted to go in this niche because I'm like, I've done this. I like it. I'm good at it. And a lot of companies probably don't know how to do it or how to scale it. And so that's why I really want to help out to build out these concepts and help like evangelize the internal employee to help them become the next ClickUp, right? Or help them become the next Morning
Yeah.
Brew. I think it's really, really beneficial and kind of like necessary because these days, especially software companies, they're all the fucking same. Sorry if I
Yeah.
swear, but
That's
they're
okay.
they're pretty much
They're
all,
the same.
all
I
software
was
companies are the same. Yeah.
I was just
And
we were
yeah,
talking we were talking about the same, actually the same, and we were talking about design recently, and, like, even,
yeah,
like, design is just it all looks the
yeah,
same too, so, like, you have to do something to stand out. I mean, authenticity is
exactly.
definitely one way. I mean, it is a very visible way. It's a very, like, in your face, like, if you are distinct and if you have real faces, that can go a long way.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I guess you're still figuring it out because you've just launched your company a few weeks
yeah,
ago. But I'm
yeah.
curious, like, how do you help people? Is it through trainings? Is it through a little bit of done for you strategy? Like, what is the mix like to really get teams to create
Yeah.
authentic content?
Yeah, for our process, how I go about do content, it all starts with a workshop, and the workshop is primarily meant to help flesh out your ideas, find your strategic narrative, find your points of view, and build a topic bank. Remember, like how I was saying earlier, where like I have this whiteboard filled with ideas. I probably only have like 5 or 6 ideas on there at a given time. The workshop is like an intense workshop where we figure out 30 different topics so that you can just never run out of content. You can always go back to that one line and be like, I can build something out from this. And then based off those contexts, based off those topics, I build them 5 scripts, and then I help them edit one full video. So now they get the whole idea of like, okay, we have the foundation, we have our topics, we can never run out of content, we have some scripts as a jumping off point, and we have one video. Great. At that point, they can either decide if they want to work with me full time, and I come on, and every single month I will fly to their location. Like we'll do all the content for them. We'll like spend a whole day filming everything, and then all like the coaching, the evangelism stuff, the training will all be done like, virtually, like over Google Meets. I hate Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much like how I built this out. I currently have a couple clients in the belt, and this is exactly like how we're doing it for them.
Yeah.
Like they're in the workshop phase, and now they're moving towards the retainer phase. And I'm actually flying next week out to Los Angeles to like start the first one. It's gonna be really fun. But yeah, maybe this changes over time. Our
Yeah.
process is definitely the first process is definitely not the last process, but it looks like it's working for the time being.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of education, but it's very
Yeah,
hands-on as well. I think that's what people need to do it right. Because I think that there's not
yeah,
anyone, you could be someone who just advises. And I think that's hard because you kind of need to be in the nitty-gritty and like show
absolutely.
certain editing things. So you're giving both sides of that, like, hey, here's the theory, but here's actually how you do it and how you become successful. So I like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. This is more of
what
like my yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I wanted to know, like, from any of your stories, like, is there anything,
Yeah.
like, surprisingly that went viral that you didn't expect, or like any piece of content that really, like, I guess, like your favorite list of pieces of content
Yeah.
over the years?
That's a great question. My favorite piece of content that I didn't think was gonna go viral.
I mean, and
Um,
everyone wants to go viral, so I would just be surprised if there was something that surprised you that went viral that you didn't expect.
yeah. There was a video I made once. It was more like top of funnel, very like humor based skit, still had the product in it, but I was pointing fun at salespeople, and this was back when I was working at Trellis. Our ICP was salespeople, sales organizations. So all of the content I was making up until that point revolved around the idea that I was helping empower salespeople. So I was either giving them technical advice or I was making fun of one of their biggest struggles. I made a piece of content once that didn't really follow those guidelines, and this is why guidelines don't mean shit. But like I made this piece of content that was very like it was making fun of salespeople. And I was like, man, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's gonna be fun. Like I like making content, but I don't think the sales community is gonna appreciate this. Let's just put it up and see what happens. And it had overwhelming like excitement and like engagement on LinkedIn from salespeople being like, ha ha ha, this is so true. We do use all these tactics, right? And this was also like very early on. Like this was like month 3 of like making content at Trellis. And I realized then I was like, man, people like to make fun of themselves, like
Yeah.
no one needs to be so serious. And so that was a piece of content that I learned something from, and also just like it did really well for no reason at the time in my mind.
Well, like, and don't follow the rules too carefully because, like, something might have worked one way, but that doesn't mean you should
Yeah,
always stick to that.
exactly.
Yeah. I think I've tried over the years, I guess for me, when I do more text, that's why I'm interested to learn from you on video. But
Yeah.
like there tends to be two buckets, like very point of view content, like someone has a strong point of view that goes viral, or
Mhm.
educational, like you're an expert in this and you give them like a, how-to guide. I mean, something like that. So I think that these two buckets, and it surprises me because like it depends on the person, depends on the brand and what works for
Yeah.
them. So like there isn't one template that there are things you can learn and say, okay, there's these general trends, but there isn't like a one size fits all. And I think that's why if you work with a brand, you're able to give more custom advice. You're able to give them really what they
Yeah.
need to be successful, I imagine.
Yeah, when I was building this business, I was like, I don't want it to be like kind of like a churn and burn business where, I have like 20 different clients and like I'm helping all of them at the same time. Like I kind of just want to have 3 to 4 really good clients and be super hands-on and just like
That's
travel to
exactly
their
how I feel.
locations. Yeah, it's like that's the old agency feel from like, 5, 10 years ago. And I want to bring that back, and I want to be just like super hands-on and intimate. And yeah,
I think it's
that's
like
just how I like to work.
the quality of the craft still matters, especially
Yeah.
when you're doing, I would say, I mean, yes, you can get by in the volume game probably for another year or two, but like you need to be,
Yeah.
quality matters and people can tell.
1000%. 1000%. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's like no real templates for this type of like organic content. There's no, in my opinion, there's no good template. And there really shouldn't be a template for how to
Yeah.
make really good content. There should be maybe some formats and some frameworks, right, that you can use to kind of like create your own ideas, and then, from there have that be a jumping off point and continue to build out the concept. But if you follow a template so like rigidly and structured, it's really just going to be the same as every other piece of content. And isn't the whole
Yeah.
goal of making content to stand out and be a bit more creative than your competitors?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that people want that easy way. Like, oh, if there's just a template,
Yeah.
I can do these hooks. But I think a lot of times they're missing either like the strategy behind it, like it doesn't match your company, it doesn't match what you stand for, your positioning. I
Yeah.
find that anyone who's selling those like template guides, like you're missing a huge part of what makes it successful, which is like, what do you actually
Exactly.
sell?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your competitors? Like, how are you going to stand out? Design, like, or how you look
Yeah.
visually.
That's
But
a
I
big
wanted
piece
to
of
ask
it.
you some fun questions.
Yeah.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever heard when it comes to LinkedIn or LinkedIn in general or LinkedIn video?
Yeah. I was at a conference a couple months ago, and somebody was like, I was talking about LinkedIn video, and somebody was like, "Oh, LinkedIn video? Man, that's been dead. No one does that anymore." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, no, like they removed the video feed from my profile, which they've been doing to some people. They're A/B testing
Right.
this, I guess. And I don't see anybody doing video anymore. Video gets like super low reach." I'm like, "Okay, do you have your phone on you?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, can you open LinkedIn? Can you search up TLDV?" A great example I love to show people, right? Look at how much engagement all their content has been getting. What format is their content? It's only video. I'm like, exactly. There you go. It's not that that video is dead. It's the opposite. It's growing. But I think the issue people have is that any video will do well. If you go back in time like 6 months, any video did well on LinkedIn because LinkedIn wanted to incentivize creators to make any type of video content. So engagement and impressions were just like exploded and unproportional. And now it's finally starting to kind of like calibrate, there's like a
Yeah.
balance to it. And good content is always going to come up on top. And so if you're making good content for your audience, this is super subjective, right? Good content. What is that?
Yeah.
But if you're making content that resonates with your audience and either is providing some sort of value via being entertaining or educational, right? Your audience will be receptive to that. And so the idea that video is dead is incorrect. Any
Yeah.
video is dead, sure. Like good video is still alive and well and growing on this platform.
I just say that LinkedIn is just lagging behind. They just haven't caught up yet. Like I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
they haven't.
sooner or
true.
later, yeah, it's going to become more popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand why people say that, but yeah, definitely not true.
Yeah, I can go on like so many tangents about like LinkedIn being the worst right now, but also the best. It's like such a
But
Wild West
people
scenario.
love to like talk crap about LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
LinkedIn has brought me the most
That's what
joy
yeah.
and the most money, if I'm being honest, from any other
I
platform.
know.
So like,
I know.
invest in LinkedIn.
I just don't know why there's so many haters. That's what I'm saying. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know.
Okay, so what do you think is the biggest myth when it comes to employee content? I've
Yeah.
lived some of those myths. Like it's hard to do. Employees aren't interested. Like, what do you hear the most when you're talking to people? Like myths that you think aren't just not true.
Let's see. Just start posting, and within a month, you're gonna be on top of the world, and we're gonna have so much ROI from it, right? And that's like
Instant ROI.
every
Yeah.
instant ROI, right? Or leadership asks you, what is the instant ROI, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that there's no instant ROI.
Yeah.
I made a post about this a little while back, but the instant ROI you get when you start posting as a founder or as an employee for a brand is you start to understand what you're comfortable with, what you're not, where your strengths are, and where your weaknesses are. That is your ROI. That is your building block to be like, okay, I know where I currently sit. It's kind of like an audit of your sphere of content, right? And then from there, you can use it as a jumping off point to be like, okay, I need to lean more into this style of content. I have to learn more about this side of my ICP. That is the ROI, is getting that feedback, getting that information, which you wouldn't have gotten in the first place if you didn't make content. Now, fast forward 3 to 4 months, you have an engine pumping out content, and your audience is loving it because you spent the time to actually experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. That's the ROI, not
Yeah.
leads.
I mean, honestly, learning about yourself, but also like because everything does have your face in it, like becoming more confident in your own ideas.
Yeah,
I think that's also something like working out an idea through a post. I think that's something that's people wouldn't think about that, but that's really important, especially if you are
it
trying to
is.
be a thought leader. I mean, what is a thought leader? But I mean, if you want to actually have thoughts that are interesting and
Yeah,
differentiated and
yeah,
unique, you have to kind of work out those ideas either through writing or video or whatever,
exactly.
even images. Like some people work really hard to communicate visually these complex ideas. So I think
Yeah,
people don't think about that enough. It's like your own intellectual sort of development. I think it does
yeah,
help.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how
Okay.
you brought up thought leaders. I was like, in my mind, there's so many like lukewarm thought leaders out there, like pumping out like very generic takes, and yeah, it's just not very thought leadership isk.
There is, I spoke with someone recently on the podcast. She was the head of content for Ali Abdal, the productivity
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
And she had a really great kind of really detailed what is thought leadership, because she thinks a lot
yeah,
about that and she helps folks with that. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check that out.
yeah,
Inez Lee, that was our conversation. But yeah, I think the word sounds cheap nowadays because everyone can be a
yeah.
thought leader, but like what is really thought leadership? It's having an opinion on something that has context for your industry. Like it does
Mhm,
have some depth to it. So yeah,
absolutely.
but it just gets a bad rep. Okay, last question for you. If you're a startup, I mean, I'm a startup marketer deep down, like, low
Yeah,
budgets. You don't,
hmm,
necessarily have a long marketing plan, but you're like, okay, I want to give this a go. I want to, spend maybe 30 days getting an engine going for employee generated
yeah,
content. What would you say is like a good starting place for, like, say if I
yeah.
if I can commit 30 days to this, where should I start?
30 days, like we were saying before, 30 days is a very short amount of time to see any ROI, right? So in the first 30 days, what you're really trying to do is get buy-in, build ideas, and just like put them out there and see what the reception is from your audience. I think if I could split this down between like weeks, right? If you're looking at it in the form of like 3 to 4 weeks, let's say you already have employee or leadership buy-in. Great. That's probably the hardest part. This next phase, this first week, is building that foundation and building that strategy. So, like understanding your ICP, understanding where they live, understanding what your strategic narrative is in your industry, right? Using those industry insights, using your controversial takes, your thought leadership, right? And just plugging it into the strategy and the foundation. And from there, start to compile a list of ideas that you can make content off of and start to compile some inspiration that you can use to help inspire you to build out different concepts. And then once you have the foundation, it's time to kind of start putting in the reps. And so at this point, you probably already have your, 2, 3, 4 employees who want to be a part of this program. You have each of them pick a certain format or have each of them pick a certain, sphere of genius, right? That they will just dominate and become the experts in. This could be different verticals in your ICP. This could be different types of formats, right? This could be educational versus entertaining, whatever it may be, right? And then have them just start building out the concepts. And so week 2 would be getting in front of the camera, right? Like reading your scripts, right? Or talking about your opinions, doing the talking head, doing interviews, right? Whatever it may be, but just getting the at-bats in and just try to film as much as humanly possible. Not with the intention that any of this stuff is going to go viral. Maybe not even with the intention that any of this stuff is going to be posted, but just like get the reps in so you know what it feels like to be on camera. A lot of people they freak out, right? When they
Yeah.
get on camera for the first time. And you're not going to go anywhere if you put up hard deadlines and very strict guidelines to folks who have never been on camera for the first time. And just start small, right?
Yeah.
Start with lo-fi content. Start with your phone, right? Minimal editing, CapCut, TikTok, whatever it may be. Week 3 is putting yourself out there, right? So at this point, you probably have at least one video, right? That you can say that you're a bit proud of. Put it up there. See what the reception is. Of course, one video is not going to get you anywhere, right? At the very minimum, it might get you like, 12 likes. Who knows? But it starts the motion, right? It starts you taking the hardest step, which is making an idea happen, putting it on paper, taking a video, editing, and putting it out there for the world to see. Now you've done it once, great. Let's just do it 2 more times. Okay, now you've done it 3 times, great. Let's do it 6 more times and just keep going like that. It's like an avalanche that keeps rolling and rolling, right? Once you do a little bit of it, let's do a little bit
Yeah.
more and see how it goes. And you'll see the difference between how good you are on camera, how better your scripts are, how more fluid that you speak and more articulate you are. and how much more fun you typically have after a while. So that's what I would say is the first 30 days.
I mean, I like the idea of keeping it like low expectations, like just like
Yeah,
experiment, like build that muscle. It's more of a muscle. Like it's like exercise. You can't expect like something crazy from a first workout,
e-
but you need to get those reps
exactly.
in. So I like
Yeah,
that. Well,
yeah,
thank
that's
you
a great
so
way to
much,
put it.
Dom, for joining.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And, I really think that this is the future, and I know that you do as well. So, yeah, I'll be sharing your links below. And for anyone who's interested in employee generated content, go check out Dom and the doContent team.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.